Alright, welcome to Imperial Advisor, episode 26. And I just checked the YouTube history, and it's like just gone a year since our first show, so 1 year, boys. Yay.
Congratulations.
Hype. And yeah, as you can see, we don't have Andy, but we've upgraded, and we've got MindsDesire, we've got Aneil joining us as a sort of guest.
Yeah, it's I love to talk, and so here's a great platform for me to just flap my gums.
Great, and MidsDesire is MindsDesire on Twitch and also YouTube.
Yeah, also YouTube, and also on pretty much any online platform you'll find me. My League of Legends handle is MindsDesire.
Did they had the someone to carry you?
Yeah, I'm not a pro, but I'm pretty good still.
Yes. All right. So yeah, plan for today is it's a little bit of a sort of scattershot. There hasn't been tons of big news, but quite a few little bits. But I think maybe to start, since we've got Aneil with us, maybe you could just for people who don't know you, give a little bit of background about yourself and your history with Alpha Vor, and how you got into the game and came to where you are now.
Sure. So my background with L5R is I picked up the game. So Gen Con 2017. I'm just hanging out like I normally do. I live in Indianapolis, so I just always go. And my friend was really hyped about this one because he saw the banners for the L5R game, and he had played the old game. And so I had never even heard of the game prior to this. And so we actually went and played the demo like 4 times. Like we stood in line and just played the demo a bunch because it was really different. I've never had a card game where I could pick it up and be so I was so bad at it. And I just was getting destroyed. And, I don't like to be bad at games that I find fun. So I'm like, all right, we got to keep playing. I need to get better at this. And so roll around. I kind of had forgotten about it, but then 6 and 6 came out, and I actually picked up everything and found out about the online version of the game because we didn't have a local scene. And from there, I started playing, and really trying to get good at the game. And so I started playing, I started competitively playing in late December. And, I've been playing since. I think the game is incredibly engaging. There's tons of decisions to be made. And as someone who's I played competitive Magic for 15 years. I've been playing Magic since I was 9, and it's just one of those things that when games come out, I just always ask myself, why am I not playing Magic instead of this game, right? Like they're so similar, I should just be playing Magic. Whereas L5R is so different, and there's so many different skill sets, and there's so many different things you can do that I think it's so different enough that I really enjoy it.
Cool. And you played Dragon?
Yeah, so I started playing the game. Yeah, so I started playing the game as Crab. That was the first clan that I picked up just because my friend was describing the clans to me and kind of what they stood for, and I kind of liked what the Crab did. I didn't like the way they played, though, unfortunately. It didn't really fit with how I like to play games. But then I played against Kingsley a couple times on Jigoku, and I think we went 2-1 or something, my Crab versus his Dragon. And so, I saw the deck that he was playing, and it looked really cool, and, I was like, can I get a list from you? And so he gave me his deck list, this is probably pack 4 of the Imperial Cycle. And so I just started picking it up, started putting in the reps, and, I felt that I really, really liked the way that it plays. It's really straightforward, it's going to do its one thing each game, and it's going to do it well. And, can you stop me?
Nice. And then you went to Pack South and made Hadamoto. Is that kind of...
Yeah, so I had room to travel to one tournament, actually travel. And so that was the easiest one for me to do. So I went to Pack South, not knowing, really anything. I had yet to play a paper tournament. So Pack South was my first time playing in paper.
How was that?
It's not a big deal, right? Other than making sure you get all the moving parts together. I don't find playing in paper too hard just because I have tons of paper experience from Magic. So, just like tournament fatigue and, like physically moving the cards, physically playing, all that stuff, just it was really easy for me to do. So I never had an issue. And, fortunately, the deck that I picked is very good in time matches. Being able to break provinces, 2 provinces a turn is pretty good, I hear.
Yeah. And we might talk a little bit about time matches and going to time, and because there's a little bit of stuff on that later. And I guess one more thing is, like, in terms of where you see the state of the game currently, and I guess maybe there's 2 angles. One in terms of the meta, and we've obviously the big thing that's kind of been the theme is Scorpion dominance, certainly in tournaments, and the other side is where it's going in terms of another 6 packs in 6 weeks, and sort of the running of the game, the logistical bit.
Sure. So I think the current meta, there's been a lot of discussions now that Disciples has been out for quite some time in terms of just like being able to get like a volume of games in. So the consensus for most of the high level tournament players, offline, online, that hang out in Discord are that Scorpion, Dragon, and Phoenix are the 3 tier 1 clans. And then we have Crane and Crab in tier 2. And then we have Lion actually is in its separate tier in tier 3, and then Unicorn is still below Lion. I just say they're, the bottom of tier 3, with a decent ways below Lion, but just some people put them in tier 4. So that, Unicorn is I'm not going to discuss Unicorn just because it's a known issue. They just need new cards. Like that's just the truth of it. But with Phoenix, the Phoenix pack has really made some good gameplay for Phoenix, and I really like the way that the new Phoenix deck plays. I think it's really cool, and there's a lot of issues with some of the other Phoenix cards that I think are either overtuned or just maybe a little bit. A lot of people complain about how Phoenix might be supplanting Scorpion as the new negative play experience masters. The card, Tadaka is just one of those cards that I've seen games where he came down and, someone had 10 Fate and 15 cards and they couldn't actually play anything. And it was just like, I don't know how you could find that fun. I'm a little biased, right? Because I play Dragon, so it doesn't affect me as much. Yeah, so it doesn't affect me as much. I get to keep playing my game, so like, I can't speak from how bad that feels, but I've definitely heard from a lot of players, and there was a topic today in strategy. People were asking, what does your local scene think of the new meta? Is it more negative play experience or less than the previous Scorpion dominance? And I do think that Scorpion was the best suited in the original Imperial cycle, right? Mm-hmm. Scorpion as a clan had the best stronghold. Their stronghold was used on an axis that no other stronghold could be used. It basically generated free economy each turn by drawing you extra cards, or it stopped any good Scorpion wasn't going to get dishonored unless it was like a flurry. And then also they have in faction, they have attachment control, event cancels, character control, and they have access to all the best neutrals, including for shame. And then the whole concept of Dragon Splash is that currently Phoenix is splashing Dragon. The problem is that Let Go and Miyamoto's Fury are just the best toolbox control package you can put together, where it's just like these 6 cards are very powerful, and we can just throw them into any type of deck, and it's going to make that deck it's going to like plug some holes basically. And so that's another maybe issue with the influence costs. Probably a whole nother topic of balance and meta, but I think the game is incredibly fun right now. Speaking from my perspective, I could definitely see people who play maybe Lion or some of the lower clans having issues with certain ways the cards are going. I think that if they don't, their stance is probably not going to be to ban or change any of these cards. I think just when more cards get released, we'll have built better deck options and better deck building ideas to kind of deal with what's happening right now.
Cool. Anyone else want to weigh in on some or any or all of that?
Yeah, if any of you guys have any like the local meta question, if you guys would like to answer that, so here in the States, not everyone here has a good local meta. Like in central Indiana, I usually actually have to travel about 45 minutes before I can get to a local store with about 6 people. Like it's not even like a super big local scene.
Justin, what are your thoughts?
No, I wouldn't disagree. I think, yeah, Scorpion are still very, very strong. Phoenix are absolutely a tier 1 clan now. Dragon remain a tier 1 clan. They've got the best province lineup in the game. They've got an incredibly powerful and potentially dominating early game. Crane, moving down to the second one, I think Crab are pretty close to tier 1. They're still just a brutally hard matchup for almost any clan. And they can just pull out. They can just get, they can get the assassination wave, the crab draw. They can just, and they can get the Iron Mine reprieve train rolling, and they can value you out of the game. I mean, where they fall back or where they lose points is that they are a slow clan, and they, when we're talking about time later, that's where they can fall down a bit. I think Crane Daka just drops a hammer on Crane as well, probably worse than any clan in the game. And yeah, Lion are. I've had a few discussions with some Lion players, and yeah, just the Lion are just incredibly inflexible. They do one thing and they do it really, really well. And if you can answer that one thing, then they really don't have anything else to fall back on, and no other ways or flexibility to play the game. And with Cute Nasawa, their kind of mid-game tricks or color are now as good as dead, because recycling against the waves just destroys that strategy completely. So Lion take a really, really hard hit from Phoenix's ascendance, and Unicorn are Unicorn. So they're still just desperately waiting for cards.
And before the Phoenix pack, we saw the cards and we thought, is this just going to be the way the game sort of evolves, that a clan gets the clan pack and they just become, the new dominant clan? Is that happening, do you think, or is it still, still a bit more questionable about who's on top?
I think clan packs are terrible. Like, as somebody who's never played a Fantasy Flight game or an LCG, I think that the concept in a competitive game of a clan pack is terrible. We're going to be going to Worlds this year, and one clan is going to have, just this huge suite of extra cards that no other clan does. And, especially if these clan packs are going to be as powerful as they are, I just wish they had a more, a more balanced way of bringing these cards into play, as opposed to just being like, here you go, clan, you get all these cards now, and then we're just going to basically, it's like king making, right? Like, it's like, you are now a good clan because we just gave you all these cards. And I just, if that's the way Fantasy Flight is going to do it, I'll resign myself to accepting that, but I just wish there was a different way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's mostly a reflection of the old style that they've had. That, to be fair, well, maybe I shouldn't say it has worked so far, but it basically they've been able to do it for the other LCG models, and they've been able to make their money. And I think maybe for the other games, with Game of Thrones and Netrunner, you'll favor one faction or another, but when one faction was down, you played a different faction. There wasn't as much an attachment as there is in L5R. So yeah, I think it was just a missed opportunity on their part. I don't think they really understood what they were doing when they were getting into this. I will say and I guess it's a little controversial, I do like what they're doing with the 6-pack release, where they're trying to get as many of the cards out in as quick a chunk as they can. So when we're talking about the clan packs bringing about a big imbalance, the smaller packs have the opportunity to do this exact same thing, just on a kind of week on, week off, or month on, month off basis. So yeah, it is interesting that they've essentially taken two different approaches with two different sets of releases in the same game.
Do you not think, and maybe we can let Owen weigh into this, that at the point where you're doing 6 packs in 6 weeks, that should just be a box of some sort, like that if the goal is to put a big bunch of cards into the environment in one sort of block, then it's just sort of retroacting the fact that they're used to creating these small packs, and maybe that's a production issue. But actually, logistically, that the logical way to do it would be, okay, here's a big box.
I think the big box is the way to go. We've kind of hashed that out already. I think there's a couple of things in the way FFG is organized and prints the stuff that acts against it. In that, because they print, I think, almost all of their stuff, bar some of the promos in China, they've got like kind of 6-8 month lead times probably on doing anything. So they'll put the foot on the gas and the foot on the brakes, and it's going to happen 6 months later. So whatever their plans were for L5R, their ability to respond to just stuff happening is probably a bit limited. Like, I mean, we never got a reason why they were doing 6 packs in 6 weeks. They never actually sat down and said, this is the reason we're doing it this way. And now they're doing it again. And I imagine they're going to keep doing it because they probably said, let's do 6 packs in 6 weeks. And then let's keep doing it. They made that decision. There was some negative response, but they can't do it now. You know, they're going to do this 6 packs in 6 weeks. It takes them an awful long time to basically start turning into or out of a skid, effectively. So it takes ages for them to respond to anything. Should they be just one big box? Yes. If it's going to be 6 packs in 6 weeks, it should just be a box that costs whatever it costs. It would be cheaper in packaging. It would be simpler for people to collect. It would be more likely to sell because all of the retailer data I've ever heard is that the individual packs sell quite poorly and the big boxes sell much better to the casuals. And whereas the hardcores buy the individual chapter packs, the more casual players who are maybe playing it as like nearly a pseudo board game kind of come in and buy there's a new L4 thing. I'll get that. That looks cool. And but that's what they buy. And I mean, FFG have problems with distribution. They have problems with keeping schedules. They have problems with lining up their products and going. They seem to go like there was Star Wars Legion was what they were doing for the first 3 months of this year. That was all they were doing. It was Star Wars Legion. That was all they were talking about. That was all the thing. And in fairness, that's probably a huge undertaking. They're looking to compete with Warhammer 40k, basically, and they're bringing a huge new property to market. It's a Star Wars property, so it can't fail, because if it fails, like, they're massively in the hole, because whatever the license costs is significant. So they were like full court press on that. And then they announced they're doing a Star Wars live stream and reveal conference on the 1st of May. And so all the people from Star Wars games tune in to watch that. And it's just X-Wing 2.0. So everyone freaks out. They're like, there's nothing about Destiny here. There's nothing about Legion. There's nothing about Armada. You're just doing X-Wing 2.0. Because they needed to spend an hour doing X-Wing 2.0. They definitely did. But they also didn't really consider what to say to the other fans of the other games who were there going, where's our stuff? We were promised a Star Wars conference. This is just an X-Wing conference. And I think their ability to communicate with specific fan bases is extremely poor on some levels, that they're very bad at explaining why they're doing stuff. And that's something they need to work on, because in the absence of them explaining stuff, people generate theories, and theories will often skew in a paranoid or negative direction. So, yeah. I mean, 6 packs in 6 weeks, they should really have explained why they're doing it at some point.
So we did get a little bit of a snippet, but it was all secondhand. So it was coming from the European OP guys who said that their initial reason was that the numbers indicate a bit of a downturn for the first set of packs, largely because the environment's a bit stagnant and a bit stale at the very start before you actually get the packs out. So that's why they rushed out the 6 packs. Why did it again? I don't know. Maybe they had good sales from the first time round and they said, well, it worked first time round. Maybe it's a good idea. But we had a lot of complaints about kind of a stale environment in between waiting for packs, or I guess we do, although the Phoenix pack has kicked it up a bit. The one potential reason that they might be sticking with the clan or with the smaller packs rather than going for a big box is further down the line. So when new players are looking to get in and we're 2-3 years in, rather than having to get everything, they can just kind of cherry pick the packs that work best for them. So that's a potential reason why they might be doing it. Not that they've ever said that to us. That said, they still haven't in any of their games worked out a way to ease the entry level in for anyone new coming in. They're essentially with all their living card games are it looks like some of their miniature games too. There comes a point where new players just can't join anymore, and none do because there's no real entry level. And they've tried different approaches to try work that in, but they've never really mastered it. And well, I guess that particular solution for Alpha 4 is still a little bit down the line.
Yeah.
From a competitive standpoint, I think that 6 and 6 is really a really bad idea. So I personally don't care about how they release the packs. Like, if they were to just release a box, I don't care about waiting. I think that metas take a longer time than people give them credit for to be solved, or for the game to be stagnant. Like, from a competitive perspective, just because you're just trying to always tune your deck, you're always trying to try new things, and like, new technology is always discovered later on. But from a competitive standpoint, 6 and 6 is really bad because when you basically just have to wait for the whole thing to be released before you can actually delve into trying to solve the new meta. When you have a new pack in a week, it's like, cool, this is going to be a meta for a week. Why am I devoting effort to trying to, break this meta? Or why am I trying to, like basically you're waiting for the whole thing to be released before you really start, theory crafting and putting new decks together and running them against the gauntlet and just like doing the things that all of us like to do for a card game. It's like, this is super fun. We got a ton of new cards. I get to build new decks. I get to run them against old decks. I get to see what works. It's awesome. But then waiting for each pack to come out slowly as a trickle kind of is almost like it's almost like a downer for that kind of like excitement.
So you kind of have the exact opposite complaint that we've seen online on a couple of the forums. For you, it's 6 weeks is too slow. You want them all now, straight to your veins.
Sure. If that's what they're gonna go with, right? If that's the release schedule that they're gonna go with, I would just prefer to have them all.
Yeah.
Playing Magic, there's 3 months in between each set, right? Like, there's sometimes supplemental sets or whatever, but I mean, in terms of each actual set release, there's a large gap. I don't get bored because, I can draft whenever I want, so there's more for me to do with a set in Magic. But for L5R, maybe I do wish that they release cards slightly quicker. They're not releasing as many cards, but I also understand that they have a lot of other properties and they have a lot of other things going on. I would just prefer them to keep supporting the game, right? I mean, if push comes to shove, I'll wait a little bit longer if they keep supporting the game.
Although I have to point out that when they do the 6 and 6 weeks, those 6 weeks are like a total buzz of constant posts, leaks on 4chan, people putting up things.
People get hyped up, man. Like, they are so ready. And I think the reason they might do 6 and 6, from a business standpoint, I think the reason they do it is when the 6th pack releases, it's been a month and a half, right? So when they say there's been no new content, FFG can quote, we actually released something 2 months ago as opposed to 3 months ago because the last pack. No, I actually think that might be a reason, right? So when the last pack of the Imperial cycle came out, it had only been about 2.5 months since the Phoenix pack because of when the last pack in the Imperial cycle actually came out.
And I think there's an impact there for tournaments as well, that running a tournament, and we all look at tournament results and try and see what that's saying about the game. But a tournament result which has one of those packs is kind of a bit meaningless for that reason. Whereas we want to see those packs come out and then see a cycle of Kotais and cycle of results, so that we can sort of see that meta evolve and see how things are getting figured out and how people are, what's coming to the front and then what's countering the thing that's coming to the front, right?
Gen Con might be affected by that, right? So second cycle is slated for Q3, and Q3 starts I believe in June, or it's June or July. And so are we gonna have, is Gen Con gonna be a tournament with like half of the cycle out? Like, who knows?
Yeah. Now one thing Eoin mentioned that I want to kind of delve into a little bit more is the communication level coming from FFG. I think just going back to that Star Wars side of things, a lot of the great information that came out about the new Star Wars X-Wing game 2.0 came from interviews with Team Covenant, and there were also a couple on one of the other sites, Battle Lost Souls. So they were actually getting some of their media and some of their promotion out that way. But for L5R, it's largely been quiet, but it's evident that they've realized that they've got a bit of a problem because they have started engaging some of the actual players. So, the last few articles that have gone up have been by Trevor Cuba, by Shay Ramsey, by Tobin Lopez. So they have actually been engaging with people to get content out and to make sure that something is going up on the L5R website. More things talking about the clan, how to play them. Yeah, I think to an extent that they are cutting it to the edges with the resources that they have and are probably trying to stretch themselves a little bit thin. That said, we are very greedy with their time and attention, and we L5R players do seem to always look for a little bit more. Whatever the hand offers, we'll snap a little bit at it, looking for more next time.
Well, we've sort of become accustomed in kind of the last year to being the favorite child because we were the new and shiny game, right? And with X-Wing 2.0, and we'll see if there's anything else
Legion
coming Gen Con, that we will have to like a child who's got sort of some new siblings and has to have a period of adjustment that they're not the only child. We may have to adjust. Is there anything to that the mindset of L5R players and how it needs to adapt? Justin, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, it's the kind of the psychology of the game. It's the psychology of clan identification. It's a much more personal thing. Like for a game like Magic, you are not personally invested in blue, or at least I have not met any people personally invested in blue or black or red or green or whatever. But that's not the case for Five Rings. And certainly, I mean, that's what kept old 5R going through any number of catastrophes that absolutely would have finished any other game of L5R's size. I mean, you had the whole thing with the Olympic Committee forcing them to change the card backs, which, I mean, you had things like that which could have killed the game stone dead. Yeah, I mean, because that was 6 months or something. You had the changeovers between ownership between WotC and AEG, so you had 6-9 months of just no releases, completely fallow. Again, that would have killed most ordinary games, but because of the psychological investment into identity that's such a big part of the game, the game carried on through those, and that's a huge positive. But one of the negatives is that you do feel you do take any slights or even imagined slights really personally. It's like, why are you doing this to me? So I mean, so that is the flip side. The players are going to be a bit more needy in that respect. And yeah, I just think in general, I think again, just that the LCG model it's a lot friendlier toward the players, and I think paradoxically because of that, the players require a bit more reassurance. I mean, if you've got the hard thrust of something like Magic, a collectible system, that is exactly where you stand with that. It is there to make money in the most naked way possible, and there's almost an established understanding. Whereas when you're being given something, or when something's much easier, there's always a degree of almost suspicion that the gravy train or the easy way could be taken away so quickly. So yeah, I think there's just small psychological factors that play into it, but it does kind of blow up then, and obviously once you get onto the internet then, and all it takes is one or two unreasonable voices, and what is an otherwise reasonable conversation can explode into a complete drama fest. And all of a sudden you just have huge negative feedback and stuff like that going on. Yeah, it just becomes
on the topic on the topic of entitled whining, they just put up the prize support for the European North American Championship prizes for every game but L5R. Because FFG know we're broadcasting, and we'll just wait until we're done before putting it up.
It's traditional.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's coming on Monday.
Like everyone else is up. Rude Wars is up.
Yeah.
Okay, and so there's something.
And maybe they're just putting extra special effort into it.
That's that's gonna be it.
Star Wars LCG is up, and that game's cancelled.
To be fair, we are a different stream to all of those.
L5R dead game.
Dead game.
No, they've got Netrunner as well. They've got they've got everything.
Netrunner is strictly part of the normal organized play set that they always had. But with L5R, they went a different route. Well, L5R has like a different tiering of tournaments and stuff. Not that it excuses it, but it might explain it somewhat.
Digging.
So that's sort of what Justin was saying sort of leads you on to another question, which was that, you know, we've seen Kat leaving FFG, and I think she's kind of gonna. My understanding is she's gonna sort of stick around, sort of in a freelance capacity to some extent.
Yeah.
But one of the questions around the story that I've seen sort of come up a couple of times is, you know, one of the hallmarks of Alpha War, certainly in the old game, was that player involvement in the story, and they talked kind of a bit about how that was something they really want to continue. But it sort of seems to have gone a little bit quiet on that front. Is that something you guys are worried about? Is it something, you know, you think there's some big plans coming once, you know, maybe the end of the Kotai season, or once, you know, we're a year into the game, something big is going to happen where we see that? Or, you know, what are your thoughts on that aspect of the game? I know, Baz, do you want to take that one?
So I've definitely been concerned by the retention rates of staff who are working on the Alpha War game. I know FFG is a big company, and, you know, in the company I work in, lots of people have come and lots of people have gone, so that's normal business. But as Justin was saying, because I'm invested in this game, and I consider myself to be a Dragon player, anything that affects this game in any way, shape, or form is deeply personal. But yeah, it does worry me, especially because we saw some of the designers go already. And now Katrina is probably a greater one to me, because I thought she was doing a really, really good job. She had the background, and she seemed to have the understanding of the setting that was really, really going to tie it all together. That said, you're never quite sure what's happening in the background. You know, these things have happened before for L5R and have gone on, and, you know, new things have happened and it's worked well. Also, we've long seen L5R relying on freelancers, essentially stepping in and doing the work that we would have expected people who were working full time for the company to do. So it does concern me and it does worry me, but not so much that I'm expecting, you know, the entire game and the storyline to trip and fall over on itself. I think we've definitely seen losses, but I'm not gonna dwell on it too much.
And Aneil, for you, I mean, I don't know if that was kind of a weird and alien concept, or, you know, I don't know, for you as someone who's obviously taken quite a competitive angle, how much the story influences you, or how much attention you pay to it. Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my friend Jared told me about, like, the story decisions in, like, the old game, and how, like, the players used to have, like, cards and stuff from, like, that tied to the story and all this other stuff. Obviously that doesn't seem to be the direction they've taken with this game. Personally, from what he described to me, I'm kind of glad, because some of the cards were apparently very, very powerful, or, like, they really messed some things up, or changed a lot of things. But like you said, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, not coming from the old game, the story is not something that I'm heavily invested in, and, you know, I don't want to sound, you know, I'm probably going to alienate some people in the online community who are like, blasphemy, but I mean, if the story didn't exist, I would still play the game very, very easily. Like, the story is not the draw to the game to me. You know, I do like clan loyalty, and I do like the factions, and I think that's really awesome. And, you know, it's definitely something, like Justin was saying, it's really new. You know, you don't have that kind of tie to a faction in other games, right? Whereas the story itself, while I think is very cool, and I somewhat follow it, I mostly just pick up snippets from people who, when a new story gets dropped, I honestly don't pay any attention to it.
Awesome. Justin, as someone who's kind of got a bit of background with that, what are your thoughts on whether you know, player involvement in the story is something that has been neglected, or something that is probably best left to the designers and the story writers?
Yeah, it's a really tough balance to strike. You want players involved with the game because players that are involved in the game in that way are going to stick around, and they're going to be players for a long, long time. They're going to buy product for a long, long time. They're going to keep the game alive. So that's something you do want. On the other hand, you don't want what kind of really happened with old Five Rings in a lot of ways, which is where it became an expectation. It became an entitlement. A lot of players really felt entitled to huge input to the story. When the story honestly probably would have benefited from much less player involvement. So it's as I said, it's a balance you have to strike, and I think FFG took the decision to basically take the player or take the story very much out of the player's hands, and probably for the long term that is the stronger decision. In terms of maintaining coherence and in terms of making sure that your story kind of coheres as a story and doesn't get hijacked by, ridiculous elephants. For Aneil's benefit, there was a storyline tournament. What was that storyline tournament for? It was cheated, but it was a storyline tournament for like. Yeah. I mean, there was ridiculous stuff like you could pick a character from your clan to do certain things. It was the usual thing. And the Crab Clan had an elephant, so Crab Clan player won a storyline tournament and picked an elephant.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I actually started playing Crab. Is I saw they had an elephant, and so elephants are one of my favorite animals, and so I love elephants. When I was in India recently, I got to go and pet and bathe some elephants, and it was awesome. And they're just really, really cool creatures. And so, getting into the game, I literally Googled L5R elephant, and there's an elephant. And according to the Crab Chat on the Discord server, that elephant had every single title of the Crab Clan, and it was it was the clan champion, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly a clan mascot.
That's so cool.
But yeah, absolutely. But I mean, so personally, I mean, obviously for you, amazingly cool in terms of trying to tell, a story. Right?
I just like elephants,
hangs together.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. But so it doesn't kind of hold together. So yeah, I mean, making sure that you're telling a story and giving the players very, very limited and very, very circumscribed input into that story is, I think, overall a stronger and better plan. As for Cat moving on, that it just happens. It's the game industry. There is a huge amount of churn within the games industry. As Eoin was alluded to earlier, there's a huge amount of burnout as well, because as alluring as the game industry is, it's also incredibly hard work. It's incredibly punishing, incredibly demanding. And yeah, there's just a lot of turnover in companies generally. It's very, very tough going. So Kat did a great job. She's moved on to what I can only assume is a better paying job. But it's definitely a loss for Five Rings, but it's not necessarily a cause for concern or a cause for alarm. There will be someone else to come in and do what she did and take her place. So it's just the nature of the business. It's just something you have to be aware of. With just in an industry that with the nature of the games industry, turnover is I wouldn't say constant, but it's frequent. And I mean, and also it's worth bearing in mind that Five Rings is, or like even FFG stuff like that, board games are actually fairly. I mean, they're small fry compared to things like computer games, which are they're the biggest entertainment industry in the world. And some, if like with Rhys Osby, who was the lead story teller for Old 5R back in around 2000 and stuff like that. She moved on to writing for computer games, and that I can guarantee you would pay multiple times more than what she was being paid at AEG. So talented people are going to find their level, and there are other parts of the game industry that are far better paying, with better conditions and all kinds of other stuff that would be very, very attractive for someone who's got talent. So it's just it's just the way the industry is.
And so there's another topic that a couple of guys in chat have been mentioning. So Daidoji Eric and Travis Fights Dragons, about how there's a lot of sort of elements about the Toshi Rambo voting and the second role, and then also how elements of the website around the Kotai season have just been kind of neglected, like the Hall of Honor for Hatamoto's and little things like that slipping through the cracks. Owen, is there anything to that, or is that just sort of another symptom of this sort of slightly overloaded workforce?
I mean, I think the European OP guys that I work with have been incredible guys, but to my mind, they're ridiculously overworked. They're kind of trying to manage the OP scenes of 3 or 4 really big games, and then 4 or 5 smaller games which still have a significant player base, and they're kind of trying to keep all the plates spinning at the same time. I mean, if you if you ever correspond with Alex Watkins, most of the time you're going to get an out of office mail from him because he's literally every weekend going off to help run a different event somewhere. So they're very active in maintaining, going up and actually running tournaments, the really important stuff. And a lot of the stuff on the website is kind of falling by the wayside because, hey, they're not in the office to do it because they're off, and then they're coming back and they're doing other stuff. So, I mean, I think, it isn't being maintained enough, but there are real reasons why that's happening. They're too busy actually trying to run the game, which I don't have if there's choice between the tournaments are run well and all of the information for the tournaments is put up promptly, I'm going to go with the tournaments are run well. But it speaks that there probably needs to be a little more staff support on it, or a little more resources put into it that aren't currently being put in, because presumably they're busy with other stuff.
Yeah, and that side isn't coming from the OP organizers as well, because I know they get those results and they send them on, and then it goes on to whatever IT side that FFG have, and kind of waits in the queue, probably behind a bunch of things that are constantly being pushed ahead, just because that's the nature of how these things work. I think maybe the European OP side of things maybe have too much of a focus on the That's My Fish competitive scene, which is really dragging up their resources. But that's where the money is, so you gotta go with that.
That's what the people want. And they announced the revised OP procedures, and then immediately they're like, here's the new one. Oh wait, this is the intent is noble here, but there's a bunch of slightly confusing text written in there, so let's pull the thing again. So, I mean, clearly they were like, okay, here's our revision of this one. Oh, crap, we've mistimed that. Pull it all back, All
right, so, shall we dive into that one then? So, do you want to give us an overview of what the revised procedures were, and we can dive into the noble intent versus the grim reality of competitive scene?
Yeah, so from what I recall, because they pulled it, so I don't think I can actually look it up. The change was that you were not untimed for once time was called. You were no longer completely untimed, finish your turn situation. There was effectively, at most, it was an extra 15 minutes at the end. And there were several sub-clauses there that people for finding difficult to parse, just in terms of, okay, in the first 5 minutes, we can get a full win or a full loss. In the next 5 minutes after that, we can, but after that, we can only get a full win and a modified loss, or a modified win and a modified loss. And the text was slightly confusing. So I was basically attempting to close the loophole that can add up to half an hour to a tournament game. But the text wasn't perfectly explicit, so it was withdrawn, I think, to be revised. I'm just checking to see if it's actually there now, or do they just revert all of it?
So I think they reverted. The best I have is someone commenting on Reddit. So they're just saying, when the round ends, players are allowed to concede. If neither concedes, they continue until round end or 75 minutes on the round timer. Any slips handed in past 70 minutes have losses counted as modified losses, 0 points instead of 1. At 75 minutes, players immediately stop play and count tiebreaker conditions. same as before, and any wins at 75 minutes are modified wins. And I have to admit, like, I'm looking forward to them rolling this out again, because I think this addressed two pretty serious issues that had occurred. First, that games were going well over time. And I know I often saw games in tournaments where 10 minutes after time had been called, players were still playing and weren't even pretending like they'd noticed that time had been called. They just wanted to finish the game. It wasn't a regular happening, but that did happen. And then in other games we saw, like half-hour extensions because one game just kept going on and on and on and on. The other thing that maybe people haven't talked about too much is the post-concession win situation, where basically no one conceded. They played out the game, they got to points, and then they recorded it as a full win rather than as a modified win. Because it's two players, you're supposed to follow the rules, but if you don't follow the rules, the loser gets an extra point and the winner gets a few more points. So that is something that was a bit of a concern as well, I think. And I think these new regulations helped deal with that. But yeah, there were some issues. And the fact that they pulled it and are looking to revise it, I think is really good.
I think that has to do with active judging too. I've, from speaking with all the, the cotes that have been run, and I can't really speak on the European side, but I know like at Paris, they just didn't have enough judges. Like speaking with Catal, and like the people who were running that, they're just like, realistically, there were just not enough people who wanted to judge, or they didn't have enough people there like actively judging. And that is something that, coming from the organized play on Magic, people are like, we don't want to be Magic or whatever, right? Like, I understand that, but this is one thing that, the whole lawsuit definitely puts a damper on it, but I think that having a lot of judges is something you need for integrity of your competitive game. If you have enough judges where these matches that are going to time, for your example, where match goes to time, they record the wins. If you have a judge standing right there and both players mark full win, full win and, modify or full loss or whatever, the judge just looks at them and goes, "Are you guys sure you want to do this right in front of me?" Like, I mean, it's just like very easy to police that kind of thing if you have the manpower, which is obviously, I'm not saying is easy to accomplish or, feasible in all circumstances, but that is definitely something that would help, in this system. And that's what I'm going to be trying. So I actually am going to be helping Cascade run, and I will be the marshal at KublaCon at the end of this month. Ooh. So I'm super excited to try and bring that kind of try and set an example of how I want tournaments to be run. And the other big topic, I think, is slow play. I think with not enough judges, it's very hard to police slow play. And the concept of each player has a reasonable amount of time for decisions is very ambiguous, and yeah. I think players in matches themselves are not aggressive. I don't want to say aggressive in terms of like they're like being mean, but like I think people need to be more cognizant of getting their opponent to make a play. Like, I when somebody starts taking over 30 seconds to just make a decision, I usually ask them, I need you to make a play, or I need you to make a decision, I need you to affect the game. Like, I just need you to do something. And then after, if they take another 30 seconds, I'll usually call a judge just so we can get the game going. Because if one person is taking 1 to 2 minutes per decision in a game with, hundreds of decisions, you're never going to finish a game, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to get to 2 turns, and then that's why I personally hate the time rules, is because it's so hard to do those things. And this might be some people's first competitive games, their first tournament. They're not comfortable, and they're not, they don't want to mess up, right? Like, no one wants to mess up in a tournament, right? Like, so it's just one of those things that, a reasonable amount of time to make a decision is really hard to. You have to basically set a baseline.
Yeah, and that sort of interpersonal conflict is uncomfortable, even if it's not necessarily direct. You don't want to come across
as being a dick, right?
So I think it is something that we as players need to get a little bit more comfortable with, and need to actively encourage as being appropriate behavior in tournaments and in the environment.
Mm-hmm. One of the problems for a judge, the biggest problem with the judge is the number of judges, because at the moment you're getting small numbers of people in there to judge. And as a result of there being small numbers of people, people are on constantly. They're on for the entire event. They don't get a break. And that just, you're super tired at the end of it. You're like, God, I don't want to do that again. And that means that your judge pool is not expanding. And I know there's legal issues around compensation being paid and legal issues around employing judges, which isn't making things easier. But there definitely needs a sizable judge pool, so you can have enough judges to go, actually, you get this round off. Go, have a coffee or something, take a break, because that's what you actually want to do with it, to make it less hard on people. But at the moment, they haven't had the manpower. And then the problem is that judges are very limited in how much they can affect slow play. If they're not there, and even if they're there at the moment, they can do nothing but go, hey, make a decision. And if the player goes, or what? And you'd be like, got me, I can disqualify you, which seems like a ludicrous overreaction.
Yeah.
Or I can game loss you, which is basically DQing you most of the time.
Yeah, game loss is also an overreaction. I'm basically, what I'm going to do is, I'm working with Cascade Games, who, I contacted the head of organized play, and we've been talking, and when I really wanted to push to be the marshal, because I think if I have a little bit more power, I can kind of enact floor rules, and I hope this will work, where we can issue warnings, and it's such a good system for that. Is like, if you're getting called for slow play, I witness it, I ask you to make a play, you hit me with or what, and I'm going to give you a warning, and then after like 2 or 3 warnings, like I can be like, okay, this is a pattern, like, I need you to, and then giving a game loss after you've had 2 or 3 warnings for slow play is not an overreaction. It's just the appropriate penalty, where you have ignored the wishes of the tournament organizers and the people who our goal is to run the best tournament for the players, right? Like, my goal when I run this tournament is going to be, I want everyone who shows up at that tournament to leave thinking I had a fun time, or I had a good time, not that, this one person in this round slow played me into the dirt and that just tilted me for the whole tournament, right? Like, I don't want that. I want players to feel like they played their best, or, they played to the best of their abilities, and whether win or loss, they had a fun time. Yeah. And so warnings are such a good system, warnings for everything.
Under the current setup, you're only going to be able to give warnings within the same tournament. So if there is player... Yeah, if there is a player who's slow playing, you are absolutely relying on players in that tournament to call a judge. And if players don't, then this whole putting that kind of warning system in place doesn't work. Eoin, you might be able to correct me on this.
Yep.
If I'm right, it's the judges and the head judge only have game loss as the real options, right?
Yeah, it's game loss or DQ.
But DQ is only a tournament organizer. You have to go all the way up.
Yeah, I think so. But I think the marshal. I don't know if he.
Now, if I recall what.
Like, if you're game lossing or DQing someone, you should probably call the TO over anyway.
Yeah, I think a game loss is at the marshal's discretion. I think dropping out of a tournament, a complete DQ, it has to be tournament organizer. But according to John, summary execution, torture, disembowelment, or dismemberment are all under the standard judging rules, because there's a broad leeway there. Yeah.
Wish you could hit someone in the knuckles with a metal ruler and be like, stop it.
You can do that. It's only DQing that you have to refer. Just so we're clear on that.
Yeah, but I mean, game lossing is such a big, like, very few judges are going to be completely comfortable, because unless you've seen the behavior yourself, you're probably in a he said, she said situation where one player saying he totally did this, and the guy goes, no way, I didn't do that at all. I didn't say I had +1.
This is the classic.
It's going to be tough, right?
It's the classic. My opponent has an illegal deck, but my opponent just ate one of my cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least there you might have some evidence. You're like, did he eat the sleeve? Yeah. I'm like, okay, at that point I'm impressed. Or if there's a torn half a sleeve there, I'm like, well, there's some evidence that he may have eaten some cardboard.
Lack of commitment.
It's one of those things where the players do need to help out a little bit by being a little more aggressive. And that's hard, because usually you're focusing around your own play. You're not focusing so much on your opponent. And you could legitimately space out for a bit thinking about something. And your opponent could be like, hey, man, you slow playing? And you'd be like, oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. You just need someone to say something.
Faster than as a result, which could cause its own problems. You need to be quite mentally tough about it and able to basically both go, hey, guy, speed up. But also be willing to kind of go, actually, am I playing a bit slow? I should probably speed up a little bit. And it's a tough one because it relies on the players calling the judge's attention to it effectively. Someone comes up to me after a round and goes, that guy still played me that round. I'm like, I can do nothing about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Call me during the round, I might be able to put a judge on him for a few minutes and see what happens. I might be able to do that if I have that many free judges, which I probably don't, but I might be able to do that. But not having, like, not being told afterwards, you're like, I can do nothing at this stage. Call me over during the game. I might be able to do something. I might be able to resolve the issue. But that's the only time I can help. You can't really go back and go, okay, let's re-legislate this game after it happened. Can't really do it unless there's some proof or there's some, there needs to be proof. There needs to be a spectator or something saying, look, this is dodgy that's happening. And spectators create their own problems. They absolutely create their own problems, especially in multilingual formats, which is not probably something you guys deal with much in the States, but it definitely happens in Europe, where you could be playing, say, a guy from Poland, and his mate is there beside him, and they say something to each other in Polish.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I would call a judge instantly. I would call a judge if that happened in a tournament and that I was playing. I would 100% call a judge, and I would explain the situation, and I would just explain that I am uncomfortable with somebody speaking a language I cannot understand during a competitive match. And if the judge was not going to do anything about it, I would create a giant stink about it. Like, there's just no room for that in a competitive game. I paid money for this tournament, same as everyone else.
So my wife was playing in the Irish Kudai, and that did actually happen to her, where one of the German guys talked to another one of the German guys in German. And the German guy, whoa.
Yeah.
No. You need to speak in English so everyone understands.
Yep.
Like, it was straight up and clear, and that was coming from the players. And that's something you'd like to see. But yeah, it's a horrible case. What do you do about it? And they're just like, well, it was nothing. We were just checking the time. It could be.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know. I don't speak this language, it's just one of those things that manpower, right, is the whole thing. So I'm gonna try and instill in my players at Kublai Khan. We're going to have a bunch of people from the Discord League who live out west on the West Coast are going to be there. I'm going to instill in the players, if you notice anything, you think you notice your opponent drew an extra card by accident, your opponent has an extra fate they shouldn't have, just call a judge. It's so easy. Call a judge. It takes 2 seconds to sort out. We just make a notation of X player made a mistake. Game rules violations should not lead to game losses. When you make a mistake, not everyone is perfect. People forget to pay for their cards sometimes. Like, I've been playing this match for 40 minutes. I played charge. I forgot to take my fate away. Both players noticed it. Just make a quick note of it. If the said player keeps forgetting to pay for their charge, maybe it's something a little bit more, right? Then you can kind of escalate.
Yeah, and I know this set up. I know this is something you've mentioned before, but you just dropped it there, that it's a games rule violation. And I think that's a term that we need to start getting used to talking about, because where we're talking about misplays, that indicates that the person wasn't at fault. When we're talking about cheating, that indicates that there was
intent.
There was intent. Yeah. But when we're talking about games rules violation, that purely means that something happened that was against the rules. You're not talking about intent at all. So it is a great term, and I think we need to get used to using it.
But the problem with intent is intent's impossible to judge.
It is. And it is.
All you can judge is pattern of action. If somebody makes 50 mistakes in the tournament and they all favor them, I start to get suspicious. I can't say, like, if someone,
50 might be much.
Yeah, I watched a game, right? Well, I was actually judging a game where one of the players made 9 mistakes in a single turn. 6 of them were to his detriment. 3 of them were to his advantage. I corrected each one, but I'm going, this guy isn't cheating. This guy's just sloppy. Now, he shouldn't be playing that sloppy in the tournament, but top 8, whatever else. But I'm like going, this guy isn't cheating. Like, he's like, I forgot. Yeah. He's basically forgetting. He forgets to pay fate one thing. Then he forgets to put, like, take his fate for the turn. I'm like, who's he? He's like, I've only got 3. I'm like, you didn't take your fate for the end of turn. Like, this is a guy who's sloppy. He's not cheating.
It's someone who needs some water and a Snickers just to keep going.
So that kind of person. So in an instance, I would give that person a warning, like a singular warning, for just basically it would be a single warning for a game rules violation, even though he made 9, just to get, like, sometimes that's what people need, where they get a warning and then they're like, oh well, I don't want to do this again, because they're honest players and they want to play to the best of their ability. They'll just be like, that'll be in their head, and maybe that'll help that player kind of, tighten up, like tighten their play up, basically, is just let them know that, I need you to be a little bit, more structured in how you play the game. I think just like setting a precedent, and getting people to kind of, like, for organized play, like, set like a baseline of how we want people to play, and how, communication. I think communication is another big thing that players struggle with. A lot of the times people will say pass, or they'll make a motion, and the other player will just be sitting there waiting for them to, they might not have heard it, and then both players are sitting there staring at each other, not doing anything, and it's like, whose action is it? And it's like stuff like that. It's just like, clear, crisp communication, and that can solve everything.
All right, so we're working on games rule violations. One topic that we've been talking about every so often, and have promised to do a few times, is actual strategy once you get near the end of the game. So we did talk about how some of the rules are going to be changing, but I had our Phoenix Release Pack tournament today, and I lost 2 of my games, one of which I had an overwhelming board, but once time got called and we counted, I had lost 2 provinces, and my opponent had the favor and more honor, and I'd only taken 1, even though I was about to go take 2 provinces that turn and set up for a final turn to win. I instantly lose. Yep. What did I do wrong? And how should I have addressed that instead? Stop sucking? Is that what you're telling me?
I think so. This is one of the reasons I don't like the way the time rules are set up for this game. Obviously, no system is going to be perfect. Matches have to end. Like, there's not, we can't just sit here and play forever. That's just not reasonable. But the problem with the time rules is it doesn't take into account fate advantage, hand advantage, board advantage. It just literally takes into these set of parameters, and it would be on to the player then to be like, I was never going to win this game in a million years afterwards, right? Like, I'm out of gas, my board's going to fade away, I'm going to lose my stronghold in the next turn. Whereas the current way that it's set up, I think that you need to take... I think people need to take more risks in paper play, or in tournament play, than they would, for instance, in a game without, time limits. I think certain lines of play in paper are lines of play you would never make, say, on the Discord League, that you would have to make in paper, because you just need to advance the game state to a point where if the match does go to time, you'll win. So, like, making more attacks. So I actually think attacking in this game is actually really bad against certain clans, like against Scorpion, against Dragon, specifically those 2 clans. You see a lot of past conflicts. And in paper tournaments, you don't see them as much, because people just don't want to get destroyed by these provinces. And, getting attacked first is a huge advantage in terms of province rows. If I'm second player on turn 1, you face fight and shameful display, and I block with an E10 master, and now I have an honored master, and I win that conflict, I'm going to go break 2 of your provinces now, and you're going to lose. Like, I mean, as opposed to, or you hit Restoration of Balance, and you have to pitch 5 cards. Or, against Scorpion, you hit Pilgrimage, and they just neuter your attack and then go break two conflicts. It's just really tough in a paper tournament, to quickly get an advantage on breaking provinces.
Yeah. So 5 minutes is called on the round, and you're setting up for your conflict phases. What are your thoughts? How are you approaching it? Should at that point, should you be going, how am I gonna, or like, should you be counting the points straight away? Should you be aware of it with 5 minutes to go?
I don't know how the rules are set up. Like, when you don't do the initial count anymore, right, under the new ones?
You do the count. Oh yeah,
only at the end, right?
The new ones. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you?
I think because I know in the old ones when time was called, you would count first, and then there was that auto win if you were up by 5. But I think that was gone in the old rules, which is one of the big changes.
I think you're right. Yeah. So even in that scenario where I was down the 5 points, I would have
still get
the
a chance to
opportunity.
play.
I get the opportunity to concede, but I can still play on. Okay, that's not so bad. All right, and then once
is that just to dig into that a bit? Like, is that just going to make more games not finish at time? The fact that there's no opt-out, like, it seemed actually that was at least the intent of that was like, okay, if games are pretty one-sided, let's end them. And okay, you're going to have the odd case like Baz where someone did lose on points, but had the opportunity to come back, but most of the time that advantage is gonna, continue.
Yeah. It depends though, right? So I could be down 5 points by being down 1 province, honor, and favor, which is very reasonable for Dragon, right? In paper tournaments, I'm always down honor. I can't remember the last time I checked most honorable in a paper tournament. And so I'll always be down those 2 points just based on how I play the game. However, if I can break 2 provinces, I can break 2 provinces in 5 minutes if I'm that far ahead, right? Like, I can just be like, break this province, your go, blah blah blah. Like, just if we play and communicate quick enough, I can break 2 provinces in 5 minutes. Like, yeah. So it just depends on what it depends on what faction you're playing. 2, it depends on how quickly you can play, and 3, it depends on like really just depends on how far you're down in terms of like the assets, right? If I'm down honor and favor and only 1 province, I can actually come back to win by breaking 2 provinces, and that could be stronghold, right? If I have 3 provinces broken, down honor and favor, but then I have 2 of their provinces broken, I'm technically down 5 points, but I can still win.
So in the old format, the tiebreaker points were super important because once you got into the initial call of time, it was a win or lose immediately there, depending on points, and then you played it out. And I know for some of the games I played, stuff like taking the favor, making sure you bid low because you didn't really care about the cards, you cared about the honor because it would get you the extra few points. All of that was crucial. But under the new system, it looks like maybe it's more of a gung-ho because if you take that approach, you're looking for a modified win at best. So once you hit time, you have to assess whether you want the modified, whether you could only get a modified win or whether you can push it to get a full win instead.
In the old system, I think no, from what I understand, in the new. Well, in the new system, from what I was reading, they didn't say modified win. They said modified loss and never mentioned modified win for the end. I think you can still get a full win at the end. I think that was the other change, was if you won within the 75 minutes, you still got a full win. But if you handed the slip in after, it was a full loss. Or modified loss, sorry. So is a 0-point loss and a full win, I believe.
Oh, so once you hit whatever the total cap is, you're already over it. So even if you full win on like 73 minutes, it's over to 70 minutes. So okay,
whatever the time was, right? Like I think it was 65-minute rounds, and then there was 10 minutes afterwards. So it was 7. So from 65 to 70, if you got a loss, it was a full loss, so you got a point. But then after from minute 71 to 75, it was a modified loss, but still full win either way. This is just my understanding. I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct.
Okay. So if that's the case, then it's still important to factor in those small little increments and try win by those 5 points. But if that means if there's no modified wins anymore, if it's just straight wins.
Yeah. So a lot of people were saying that like at Worlds or like earlier in course, for instance, Lion was one of those clans that could get up by 5 points and then kind of just like not really slow play, but kind of like methodically play their way to just immediately winning once time was called. Right? Yeah. Lion can immediately break 2 provinces very easily, and then in Corset, the strategy was Lion was a low bid clan, so they were usually up on honor, and then if that's just a really easy way to get up by 5 points. As soon as time is called, it's like, oh look, I'm up by 5 points. I guess you lose.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Justin, do you want to... I know you've been a little bit quiet, and this was kind of a topic you kind of were interested in bringing up. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's certainly once... I think, speaking from personal experience, generally in the course of the game, I'm always going for a win. If time starts to get close and my assessment is that I cannot achieve a standard, like if I cannot win the game, or in a in the usual way, breaking an opponent's strongholds, dropping them in honor, then I think at that point you have to start assessing how you are going to win the game. And at that point, then number of provinces, broken, honor, favor do become serious considerations. But again, it's something I think that comes down very much to individual players as well. You will have players who will play hard right to the end, come what may. You will have players who play a much more, I suppose, strategically acute game where they do make those assessments and they change their strategy and may change the manner in which they play. And it's very, very tough because on one hand, you are going into a tournament, you are aiming to win. On the other hand, there are issues of sportsmanship, respect for your opponent, respect for the game. That something like this, that I suppose the goal starts to encroach on the manner in which you hope the game is conducted. That's something that each player needs to resolve, or that they need to examine themselves and come to an understanding with themselves of exactly how they're approaching the game on their in those terms, and that can be quite tough because again it's it speaks very much to the identity of each individual player. So I know it's just an area that I'm really it's just fascinating for me. It's just because how it is approached by different. I mean, it's really hard to say that you can't say that there is an invalid, barring outright cheating. But certain approaches to how time is handled are going to rub certain players the wrong way. Like if somebody takes the really hard-nosed, this is how I've identified I cannot win by standard means within the time limit. I now must identify how I'm going to win and play accordingly. And then you enter into situations that we were discussing before, like again, slow playing. Do you have players that? Well, I mean, you absolutely do have players that will start to drag out their decisions by 5, 10, 15 seconds longer, and over the course of a turn, which may have any number of decision points, that can add up to 3 or 4 different. They can have 3 or 4 minutes. That can be the decision. That can be the difference between an entirely new turn starting, getting another conflict or 2 off. And so it's a very murky area where the constraints, the time constraints that are in place to essentially facilitate the running of a tournament do complicate the integrity and the way that the game is played. So in terms of solutions, I do not have any. I really don't have any. But it's something that I think it's become clear that despite the best it is it's pervasive in tournaments. It happens in a not insignificant number of games in 5 rings. So it's something that it certainly behooves tournament players to sit down and think about and determine how they intend to play and why they intend to play that way.
Philosophically, do you think a time-based solution is better than a turn or phase-based solution?
Yes. I think I can.
Yeah.
In a match between 2 competent players, we can realistically get to turn 6 or 7 in a paper match if we're clear on our communication and you take the proper shortcuts and you are just you play tight, right? Like if you do that, you can absolutely get to turn 5, 6, 7 in a paper match that in another situation you might not be able to. It's just not everyone is at that level or is confident enough in the kind of machinations of physical play where they're just you're getting your tokens properly, you're communicating, at the end of the phase. It's like I have 2 fate, I'm going in with 9. Bam. Now both players know how much each fate each player is going to start with. You can start strategizing about what you're going to buy, you're going to do mulligans, all that kind of stuff. If you just take your proper shortcuts and do it all, you can absolutely get through a lot more turns.
Yeah, it's a tricky one like that though. One of the shortcuts that everyone takes at the end of the turn is the tidy up phase. Everyone just goes, all right, I'll just get rid of my empty things. But it's supposed to be the active player does their stop. Yep. The other player watches, so it's nice and tidy. And that was something that happened at Paris that kind of really wasn't awakening to me because it was very clear that the designers saw issues and put these phases in with the very much intention. But it is common play, and despite even knowing about it, I did the exact same when I was playing games today. We just got through the phases and we got on with it because people get used to it. But yeah, maybe having kind of tighter play and kind of being strict with ourselves and how we do it is probably good.
Also, a big factor is certain clans do better at certain stages in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion are incredibly strong on the first couple of turns. They're really, really very difficult to deal with for some clans. Where other clans, like let's say Crab really want to be getting on a turn 4, 5, 6, where the incremental advantages they're building up really start to matter. So it kind of behooves you, if you're playing Crab, to try and get to those turns, which might mean you might need to be a little more aggressive about, okay, sorry, man, you got to make a decision. I want to get to turn 4 where I'm advantaged, because that's where my clan, all the little edges I get from getting guys to hang around a little bit longer, because the guys might be a little weaker individually, but if I have more of them, I got a huge advantage. And getting to that later stage of the game is so important. Whereas if you're kind of sitting around, letting the Scorpion player, you attack with one guy, he fends you off, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I won't bother. Maybe I'll just go through, build my resources, get through my turn faster, so I'll actually get to the bit where I start to have an advantage, whereas as opposed to you having a big advantage. So that's a factor as well. And you need to be aware of where your clan's strengths lie and when they are in the game, because you need to play to that. You need to play to your strengths. You need to be trying to get to those turns in good order without losing too much where you're stronger.
Yeah. Okay, I think that might be a good place to leave it if everyone's kind of said their bit. Yeah. All right. So.
I've one quick question.
Yeah.
Justin, give me one card that you were wrong about from the Phoenix pack.
Ooh.
Oh God. In terms of what Fire Tensei Initiate. I think Fire Tensei Initiate was a card I seriously underrated, not because of its power level, because it's still crap, but in terms of smoothing out Phoenix starts. I've been playing it for the last couple of weeks, and you just don't get bad starts when you play that card. You get your 4-cost Shugenja and your 1-cost almost guaranteed every single game, and that's really what Phoenix kind of wants. We rely on our 4-cost slot so much that seeing a 2-cost on turn 1 if you're going first is very, very hard. So it's been like I looked at it, I thought it was terrible, but it's turned out in a strange kind of meta way to be way, way better than I'd anticipated.
Yeah, it's exactly fine. Like it's
exactly fine.
It's fine.
It's exactly fine. Yeah. It facilitates the good. It smooths out, like, you don't get bad starts, or you get far fewer bad starts, and that's something that can kill Phoenix dead, and then it can just kill you straight away.
It's also really good for getting favor in Phoenix now, and without the old stronghold, it is a little harder to kind of guarantee. Phoenix could almost guarantee favor on turn 1 if they so chose, and this is another way to kind of basically put favor in your court to start the turn, and then all it takes is for you to flip Conjo District and you get to have fun and the other player doesn't.
Oh yeah, you just won. I won. I'm amazing.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's also worth bearing in mind that a Fire Tensei Initiate with a Banzai or with a Supernatural Storm recycle through the Stronghold because your other character is going to be a Shugenja, that is still a broken province. So she's not nearly as bad. And honest to God, if she was a character of like the quality of even Solemn Scholar or something like that, Phoenix would be legitimately busted.
Yeah,
Their start, they would have too many powerful starts. Okay. So yeah, exactly fine. So significantly better than I thought she was.
Any cards the other way that you rated highly and haven't lived up to your expectations?
It's a strange one. Karmic Twist, in a certain sense, it's still an incredibly powerful card. More from the point of view that your opponent has to account for it when they're playing you. So it has a huge impact on how they play the game, or it should, the way a Crab does. But in terms of actual play, if they do start playing around it, the card is really not all that great. And frequently your opponent will get draws where they just start churning out unique characters, and you just sit there going, not much I can do with this. So it's a card that that I kind of overrated, but which is still kind of powerful. Is that it's good in a very different way to what I anticipated.
I would say that the non-Shugenja characters in the Phoenix pack are maybe a little bit lower than they might have been, because so currently the way that Phoenix plays, the card Miyamoto's Fury is actually not very good against them, which is really funny because everyone thinks this card is just very powerful and it's very ubiquitous. However, because Against the Waves is equally as broken, they get to be like. They get to basically ignore this card. You're trading equal on card. You're actually trading positive on cards and equal on fate because your Against the Waves can be played again. And so if you play a non-Shugenja character, it adds value to your opponent's Furies that they wouldn't normally have had. So cards like Shiba Tetsu, and he's the one who I think is actually he's a very good card. I actually think he loses a lot of value because he cannot be hit by Against the Waves.
Yeah, and I suppose that's not even taking into account Clarity of Purpose, which is which is actually, honest to God, maybe the most broken card in that entire. Well, okay, no, Tadaka is. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But Clarity of Purpose was a card I massively underrated.
The most broken card, but
yeah, that too. There's a lot.
There's so many. It's hard to pick.
Yeah, Against the Waves is so dumb.
Yeah.
But Clarity of Purpose is, honest to God, maybe one of the most powerful
very strong
pseudo economy cards in the game. Like the stuff you can do with Prodigy the Waves and Clarity of Purpose is legitimate. Like you have Prodigy and 4 conflicts a turn. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Phoenix plays very similar to Dragon now, in terms of how they approach conflicts. You just have all of these characters that basically can unbow and stand at will. Dragon has certain characters that can do so with, Minita Master and Sumiko, but Phoenix can basically turn any Shugenja character can basically participate in 2-3 conflicts a turn.
And what's the Scorpion matchup like for Phoenix?
I would say
I can only speak from what I've observed, so I'll let Justin go from experience.
I've had a very positive rate against Scorpion, but I would say overall that the games have all been very, very close. I would say it's probably 55 in favor of Phoenix at the moment, but that's very, very anecdotal.
Okay. But to be honest, any shake up at the top like that, I think is good for all clans. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Aneil, what's your
well? So what I was gonna say was I've watched a lot of the players who are going to be participating in the Discord League Invitational is actually starting this month, which is the basically top 16 of just like the best players like who've competed over the course of this. We had a bunch of Kote players who came and participated. The Jakob Erznik, I think I pronounced his name correctly, who has he won Warsaw and Paris, is actually in the Invitational. He made top 4 of the last chance qualifier. So we have a full range, multiple, like tons of Hatamotos, tons of people who've done well in paper tournaments. It's going to be a sick double elimination tournament. And so we actually have, I think we have 6 Scorpions, which isn't surprising because where the meta was prior to this tournament. So this tournament will be, I think, one of the first indications of what the Disciples of the Void meta might even look like. We have 3 Phoenix, 3 Crane, 6 Scorpion, 1 Crab, and 2 Dragons. And so a lot of the deck building choices from the Scorpion players I've seen some Scorpions who've gone to 10 conflict characters again. I've seen some of the lists have gone to Crab Splash with 12, 13 attachments. I've seen some lists who've gone with 3 Cloud. We've got 3 Cloud the Mines now in all the Scorpion lists almost. We've got some lists who are playing less, playing a lot more one-ofs, like they're playing one of Ambush, one of I Can Swim, one of, a lot of people are trying to basically solve the Tadaka puzzle. Yeah, because I've seen games where the old Scorpion playstyle was to basically just accrue cards and fate, and then wait for your opponent to basically like punch themselves in the face, right? Like they go in for the big wind up, and then you just turn it around onto them, and then they're just so far behind after that huge tempo swing that you then go and break their provinces or you dishonor them, right? And so that whole strategy doesn't really work when after you've been trading cards, your opponent's like, here's Tadaka with 4 fate. What are you going to do?
Yeah, nothing.
Has this started yet? And where can we check games?
So we haven't. so the tournament has actually officially started. I can the bracket is on the same page as like the groups and stuff. No game has been scheduled yet. I believe Sir Largeness, Frotop, and Jokingly are playing tomorrow, which should be Phoenix versus Crab. I think they're playing tomorrow night. But we're gonna be posting and streaming the matches. You know, I'll have a YouTube playlist just like I normally do. The matches that streamed between myself, Kingsley, a bunch of other people in the community. We've got like 5 people who stream. I try and post it in the Discord as often as possible, but my YouTube channel will be the easiest place to find them. We're gonna have all the matches streamed and commentated, and if you want to see what New Phoenix looks like this is a good place to do it. We've got 3 very strong Phoenix players representing them in this tournament.
And your channel is MindsDesire?
Yeah, the YouTube channel is MindsDesire. My Twitch channel is MindsDesire with 2 E's.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So check that out. And Owen, do you want to hit us with the beaver fact?
Absolutely. In addition to the normal places that a normal place that a mammal would store fat, a beaver store it there, but they also store fat in their tail. The beaver tail can double in the build up to double in size in the build up to winter as it packs it out with fat. It's about basically it goes from 6.7% fat in spring to up to as much as 63.7% fat in fall and early winter. And they can run their metabolic rate 1.9 times normally just by drawing on the fat from the tail. So yeah.
Nice.
So I know there's a recipe about beavers' tails. Do people eat beavers?
No, they don't. Tails? It's literally a pastry that's shaped like a beaver tail. Oh. They call it eating a beaver tail. I was reading an article about Obama eating a beaver tail. I was like, wow, that's pretty hardcore. It's not. He's just eating a pastry.
Okay.
Basically eating an apple Danish.
Disappointing but delicious.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, if you're served it, maybe not so disappointing, but...
Well, I mean, with that much, before you make something halfway edible.
Yeah. Alright, so check out MidsDesire. I'll add little links underneath the YouTube to all the Discord League stuff and the Invitational. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. And thanks to all the guys in chat. There's loads of really interesting discussion. Didn't get to call out as much as usual, but Travis and Bitrun and Sadomatic and Eric and John and anyone else who I've missed. And and also one of the things I want to mention was some of the points of discussion was stuff that got sent to us on Facebook. So if there are sort of topics you want us to cover, get in touch with us and we will try and bring them up in a show and a topic. All right. Thanks to Aneil and all the guys, and see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, and take care, everyone.
See you guys.